Taoiseach, Ireland and the United States of America have always had a very special and historic relationship, and all efforts should be focused on maintaining that. But that said, the events of the last 11 days have left people extremely concerned about what is happening. Apart from the casual attempt to humiliate the Mexican president, there has been the executive order essentially arbitrarily banning millions of people from 7 different nations on the basis of religion and nationality. Completely unacceptable. It stigmatises an entire religion and brands it and associates it with terrorism and mayhem and so forth. It is dangerous in that it emboldens others to act against people of the Muslim faith. It contravenes the Geneva Convention, offends our concept of human decency and values and religious liberty. And it's very striking, the contrast between how the world reacted in post-World War II to the refugee question and how the world today, particularly democracies, we had open doors in post-World War II. Democracies are now closing their doors to genuine refugees from war-torn areas. In that context, it's very heartening to see the Jewish community standing shoulder to shoulder with their Muslim brethren in defending them against this particular ban. There's no logic to the ban in terms of what it sets out to achieve. US-born citizens, as a matter of fact, have been responsible for the majority of the heinous terrorist acts that have occurred on US soil. America was built on immigration and refugees, which was an essential ingredient of the entrepreneurial flair and economic development that occurred in the United States. It's interesting, the technology industry, for example, all of the major companies, Google, Facebook, Lyft, Airbnb, Viber, have all given large donations to the American Civil Liberties Union to fight cases and to defend those who have been affected by this particular ban. And I think this is damaging to America and it's damaging to the world. I believe you should go ahead with your visit to the United States. It's important in terms of the historical relationship I mentioned earlier. And it's not just about a bowl of shamrock. And I think the pre-clearance facility should be maintained as well. To get rid of it would just disadvantage the over 1.5 who travel on an annual basis. But we do need a commitment from you, Taoiseach, to publicly state that the ban is morally wrong and violates the Geneva Convention in respect of refugees and discriminates on the basis of religion and nationality. And do you accept that, Taoiseach, and will you state that in those terms? And have you written to President Trump, Taoiseach, conveying your government's opposition to this executive order? And have you asked him to repeal this executive order? And if you haven't, will you commit to so right? And finally, Taoiseach, would you agree to an all-party motion strongly opposing this ban and conveying our Parliament's unified and unanimous opposition to it?
Thank you very much, Deputy Taoiseach.
Thank you, David Martin. On the 27th of January, the President of the United States signed an executive order expressed to be done under the powers vested in him under the US Constitution and the laws of the United States, including the Immigration and the Nationality Act, called the INA. Now, the precise meaning of a number of the provisions of this executive order are uncertain, and federal judges in Brooklyn, in Massachusetts, in Virginia and Washington have issued rulings to prevent persons claiming refugee status from being sent back to their home countries, or removing or deporting from the United States persons claiming refugee status pending full court hearings. The legal position is evolving, as we are now aware. On Sunday the 29th, the Chief of Staff stated that green card holders from the 7 banned countries would not be prevented from returning to the United States, as he said, going forward. This appeared to be a reversal of one of the key components of the executive order made the previous Friday. In the case of holders of dual nationality and dual passport, clarifications have issued from the USA in the past 24 hours to the effect that if the holder uses their passport from the country not listed in the executive order, they are entitled to be admitted to the USA. The legality of the executive order and US immigration rules are entirely a matter for the US courts. Now, you'll be aware that here in Ireland we granted citizenship to about 5,000 people from the 7 countries involved. Therefore, they've got Irish passports and, for instance, Syrian passports. and clarification has now been received that if one of those persons from this country presents the Irish passport at the point of pre-clearance, either in Dublin or in Shannon, it is on that passport that they are judged and will not be refused entry to the United States. I think there are a number of important points here, Deputy Martin. The rights available to refugees or persons wishing to seek asylum in Ireland are completely unchanged. And those applying for asylum, having arrived in this country or having been transit passengers, withdraw from or do not succeed in getting pre-clearance, will be considered in each case under the International Protection Act of 2015. In other words, if they are turned back at US immigration in Dublin or in Shannon and they come back into the Irish section, they are then dealt with under the International Protection Act of 2015. And the situation, as I said, has been clarified now with the dual Irish prohibited states nationals have been clarified, and on a presentation of an Irish passport they will not be hindered from entering the United States. Ireland will continue to consider any immigration matters arising from the executive order in line with Irish law. I intend to go to the United States to speak directly to the US President. The Cabinet this morning were very fully in favour of retaining our pre-clearance. And obviously the Attorney General has confirmed that the issue insofar as the legality is concerned is a matter entirely for the United States courts. Insofar as Ireland is concerned, we are in compliance with human rights legislation and in accordance with our own constitution. This is a really important element for Ireland. We have it in Shannon and in Dublin. Many other airports look for this, but we accept, of course, and I've condemned already, both torture and breaches of human rights in any country around the world, and will continue to do so very vociferously.
Deputy Martin.
Taoiseach, you didn't answer any of the specific questions that I put to you, because actually the essential issue here is the moral authority that governs the enactment of this executive order. And I asked you, would you publicly agree and state that the ban is morally wrong and violates the Geneva Convention in respect of refugees and discriminates on the basis of religion and nationality? Do you accept that essentially that is the essence of the executive order? We can go into all the legal clarity and evolution of the legal issues. The fundamental point is there was a political intent here against the populations of those 7 nations, which is unacceptable in terms of how democracies operate and behave, and particularly a country like America that was built on immigration, as I've said, and built on religious freedom and civil liberties. It offends those very concepts. And I've asked you, Taoiseach, would you agree to an all-party motion strongly opposing this executive order? And I asked you, did you write to President Trump? You might confirm whether you did or not. And do you intend to write to him? I've asked you, will you write to him, conveying the government's opposition? I've heard about concern, I've heard about you've looked at this, that and the other, but I haven't heard the clear articulation of the fact that this is wrong.
Taoiseach.
I don't object to an all-party motion, provided we can come to an agreement on an all-party motion. I don't want a situation where we are expected to have all-party motions every week. There have been quite a number of executive orders signed in the first 10 days of this presidency. I've condemned torture and waterboarding and breaches of human rights as a government around the world. I have not written to the United States President because I intend to visit him in the Oval Office in the White House and say my piece publicly, both before and then. I think President Trump is well used to disagreements and obviously is going to have many more in the time ahead. But this is not just about visits, as you know, to the American President. We have very long established traditions with the United States. We were those immigrants who first saw Miss Liberty out of the Hudson fog and said, we've realised our ambition to be able to come to the United States. So we accept and we want to hold on to pre-clearance, and that's subject to the international agreement between the 2 parties. I fully agree that it is not a policy of righteousness or a correct policy to ban on the basis of either country, nationality or creed. And I've said that publicly already. So in respect of drafting an all-party motion, Deputy, if that can be achieved, I have no objection to it. This is an issue that affects people from all over the world. I'm merely pointing out, insofar as pre-clearance and our people here in Ireland, the clarifications that are evolving from the White House in respect of the order issued by the President.